there, Screamers. I've got a new tool for you today called BreakFast. Sounds better when you say it fast. BreakFast. So what BreakFast does is it kind of builds on top of what the symbol editor was doing in BreakPal and makes it a lot closer to the workflow you would have in the editor. Now don't worry, BreakPal is not going away, but that will move more towards what its original intention was, which is to build a library of breaks and phrases to pull from, whereas BreakFast is something you can use to put phrases into the editor, I mean breaks or symbols into the editor much faster. So to get started, we're going to need some breaks to work with, right? So I'm going to move here, and you can see that the label editor from BreakPal is a lot more simplified. We've got our breakpoints and our labels, but labels are actually optional in this context. So I'm going to import mine real fast just because I have them pre-baked. You don't need to do the labels like I said, but there are some benefits, especially if you're using tools within the ecosystem like HotSwap, to just have those available. Okay, so we got our breaks here, and I've set up some key bindings, which you're going to want to do. No, I can't do them automatically. I tried to, but they're all here and ready for you that correspond to the specific symbols here. So let's do A, B, C. Nice. So that sounds familiar. And let's do B, C, A. So you can quickly type out your breaks really fast, and it'll maintain the delay timing in between each break. Same way that it stitches together symbols in the phrase version in BreakPal. Okay, so that's nice, but let's do that for another instrument so we have some choices here. Okay, you see that's added to our library of symbols now. And I'm going to do A, E, C, B, D, F. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, you'll notice that our line value has gone up because we're in an extend pattern overflow behavior. That means as you add symbols to your break, it will start adding lines accordingly to match the symbol and the trailing white space out of the symbol or after the symbol to what would have been the next note. So all right, that's awesome. But let's say we kind of like what we have going on here, but we really only want the first part and we want to be able to reuse it. Okay, so I'm going to just highlight that, right click, and just like if you've used Ehrlich's snipper tool, which I'll provide a link to in the GitHub, this can grab these series of notes, and now it's going to add it to our symbol database. That's G right there. All right, that's cool. I really like that, and I want it to repeat. So I'm going to start here on line 32, and we're going to do Control-Alt-G. Oh, what happened here? Okay, so by default, the overwrite behavior is sum, which means it will add the lines together. If there's a conflict, it will put the conflicting note in a new column. So let's just hear what that sounds like. All right, a little loud, right? But if you're overlapping cymbals or crashes with snare hits, etc., and you know that that's going to happen because it's baked into your phrase, sum is actually very useful. And the reason it's sum rather than replace is in case you make a mistake. So let's try that again now, but let's do with replace. Nice. All right, so replace is going to act as if it was like a piece of paper, and it covers everything that would have been underneath if you were overlapping. So all our overwrite behaviors have this effect in one way or another. So substitute Imagine that if there's a conflicting note like we saw before, so a note that shares a line with an existing note from your symbol to the editor, then substitute is going to substitute out that note. So let's start with Control Alt B. So you'll notice here on D sharp 336A, because there's no conflicting note, it doesn't get replaced. But our C sharp, because there is one on that starting line, does get replaced. And that sounds like this. Now, what if you want to keep the existing note but only want to do fill-ins? So that would be the option for retain. So C sharp 3 will change, but if there's no conflicting data, it will fill in. So pretty similar, except you're keeping notes that already exist. Okay, what if we want to kind of find the difference between two notes? That's what the exclude option is for. So let's do C. Yeah. This is really good if you want to eliminate kind of like first notes and things like that and potentially replace them with a completely different note manually or fill. This kind of clears the air and gets rid of some of the garbage, creates some space for you to input things. The last version is intersect, which is a little bit less useful for most people, but okay, yeah, I did that wrong. So you'll see intersect actually finds any note that isn't, or that it does conflict and keeps that. So good for pauses, good for adding a crash sound again if you know that that's what you're going to need, and eliminating any note data in between to give you space to breathe, possibly place a completely new symbol. Did that wrong. No. Oh, it's because I'm still on intersect. My bad. And there you go. So that actually illustrated a pretty good point. The way that this works is it goes by your cursor position, but if you're maintaining the same cursor position and never have changed it, it's going to continue on the chain. There's a reason that kind of comes in useful in some cases, so I kept it that way, but it is something you have to pay attention to. All right, so aside from our overwrite behaviors, we also have overflow behavior. So let's see what that looks like. Right now, you know what extend does, so we're just going to go A, B, C, A, B, C, B, C. Look at that. Perfect, right? So it's always extending the pattern by the length we want. But what if we kind of want to manage our patterns so that we're not stuck constantly making these, infinitely long break sequences? So that's where next pattern comes in. So let's go A, B, C. Oh, I just got caught by my own thing that I just told you about. Okay, A, B, C, A. So you see it's moving us to the next pattern and putting our notes there in the first place. Pretty simple. So let's start a completely new pattern. And let's use truncate. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to use a break sequence that is not perfectly lined with 64. So we're going to just make sure A, B, B, C. So this is going to tell you by how many notes that you hit the wall against when you reach 64, and it's going to cut off right there. You do get some kind of cool patterns that way. That should sound familiar. All right, so let's try that again, but let's instead loop. So let's go A, B, B, C. Okay, so replace, completely replaced, right? Let's change that to substitute. Backtrack a little bit. A, B, B, C. That should also sound familiar. So you see, by combining these things, you could get a whole bunch of different patterns that you would probably never write on your own unless you're like super, super OCD, uh, or have super abilities and mental capacity that I don't have. So cheers to you. Um, all right, so let's see. Is there anything else left? Yes, there is. One more thing. So we have these breaks. They're kind of beautiful, right? So we have multi-instrument breaks that we save there with G, and we can do all sorts of fun stuff like retain and substitute, etc. So just add a whole bunch. But we also have the ability to lock into a single instrument, and it'll use the currently selected instrument. And all these phrases will now, despite whatever instrument information is embedded in them, default to 68 because that's my currently selected instrument. So let's see what that looks like. Let's change this to C. It should look like something. Let's see. Nope. Oh, it's because I have retain on. My fault again. There you go. Now it's starting to clear. So let's go back to our first line. Boom. Well, that's kind of ugly, but the idea is there. Let's try substitute, and we'll do, no, actually let's do retain, and we'll do Control E. Okay, so that is BreakFast. As you can see, it's really, 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 really fast in comparison to BreakPal. It doesn't take up a huge amount of CPU to generate these phrases. You can mix and match and twist and mangle things in ways that you never could before, all with macros essentially. So if you have any questions, don't ask because I don't have time right now, but leave them in the comments below the video or hit me up in the Tracker Chord Discord server if you're there, and enjoy.